Hi guys, another tutorial for Jewish practices. Today we are looking at Brit Milah and Bar and Bat Mitzvah. Now, in every religion and every society there are rites of passage ceremonies. So when you get to a certain age, it's a celebration that you've gone, for example, from being a child to an adult. So in our culture, at the age of 18, you might have a big party with your friends, or 21. These are big stages in your life because you've become an adult at 18 in most cases in the eyes of the law. You can drive and you can vote and various other things. And so this is marked with a celebration. This is called a rites of passage. Another rites of passage might be your marriage, from moving from a single status to a married status. And of course, the final rites of passage that we all have is a funeral, where people celebrate our lives and mark our death. Now, in Judaism, these rites of passage are very important. And the first one comes from a covenant that Abraham made with God. And Abraham, as part of the physical sign of the agreement he made with God, agreed to circumcise all male boys 8 days after birth. And this is called Brit Milah. This is the circumcision ceremony. And really, within this ceremony, there are three main characters or three main protagonists. The first is the Kavata, spelled Kvater. And that's like a godparent in Christianity at baptism. The Kavata is someone who promises to look after the child should anything happen to the parents, and so on and so forth. And he has a very important job of taking the baby away from the mother. Of course, the mother doesn't want to give up the baby. This is 8 days old baby, very reliant on the mother. So the Kavata, there's this ceremony where the Kavata takes the baby from the mother, suggesting that the baby's okay with me. And he wears his talit and his tefillin and his kippah during this ceremony to show the seriousness and the religiousness of what's happening. And he will then give the boy to a special male guest called the Sandek, S-A-N-D-E-K. And the Sandek will hold the baby in his arms, sat down, and he will hold the baby whilst the circumcision takes place. And the circumcision is carried out by a trained man called a mohel, spelled M-O-H-E-L. M-O-H-E-L. And he will bless the child and carry out the circumcision. And that's a Brit Milah. Now, the next thing I want to talk to you about is just one more thing. In the Reform synagogue, to show the equality between the sexes, a baby girl is named in the synagogue. Her name will be read out in the synagogue a week after her birth by the father, who may also be called up to read from the Torah as a sign of respect. So that doesn't happen in an Orthodox Jewish tradition, but it does in the Reform tradition, so to show the equality between men and women. Now, the next major stage in a young person's life is going through puberty, going from being a child to a sexually mature adult. And in Judaism, this is marked by the bar mitzvah for boys. Now, the bar mitzvah for boys is at the age of 12. And it says in the Bible, it says in the Torah, which is the Old Testament of the Bible, train up a child in the way he should go, and even when he is old, he will not depart from it. So I'll say that again, that's from Proverbs. Train up a child in the way he should go, and even when he is old, he will not depart from it. So the Torah is telling parents to train their children in the mitzvot, in understanding the Torah, so they will become a good Jew, a good one of God's chosen people, and they will pass on the religion to their children. And so preparing for the bar mitzvah would involve, the bar mitzvah would involve the boy learning a section from the Torah, which he will then read in front of the congregation or around about the time of his 12th birthday. And this is a great honor, of course. He will read it in Hebrew, so he'll have to learn Hebrew. And from this point on, the boy is regarded as an adult and is responsible for his own observance of the mitzvah. He's no longer at the care of his father or his mother. He's responsible as an adult. And from this point on, He can be counted as part of the minyan. Remember the 10 people who are required in order to make a synagogue service complete, in order for some of the prayers to count, like the Amida standing prayer, needs a minyan. And he can wear his tefillin and his talit and his kippah. He can wear the full prayer kind of clothing. Now, in the Reformed tradition, by the way, bar mitzvah means son of the commandments, which makes sense because the boy is now responsible for following the commandments himself, and therefore has to do that without the parents telling them. Now, in the Reformed tradition, there is a similar ceremony for girls, and this is called the bat mitzvah. But this happens slightly earlier because girls sexually mature slightly before boys. So this happens at the age of 12. And similarly, the girl will be called to read from the Torah, although she'll read a slightly different passage of the Torah than the boy. Now, this is a really important point, because sometimes you get a question on which is a more important rites of passage, Brit Milah or Bar Mitzvah or something like that. And although the idea of the Bar Mitzvah is mentioned in the Talmud, it's not mentioned in the Torah, and the custom of the Bar Mitzvah only goes back about 600 years. Whereas Brit Milah is in the Torah. It is part of the covenant between Abraham and God, so it's mentioned in the Torah. It's mentioned in that story of Abraham and God. And so if you do get a question on what is the most important rites of passage, then you could use that. You could say, look, the Brit Milah is really important. It's part of this physical agreement God had with Abraham, whereas the Bar Mitzvah is an important tradition, but it only goes back 600 years. I mean, the Torah is over 4,000 years old. It's an estimate. And so therefore it's a much newer thing, and it's an interpretation in the Talmud. It's not actually written down in God's law. Now, the only other thing to say really is that it's a really joyous time, the bar mitzvah for a Jewish child. It's a big thing. It'll be a bit like the 18th birthday party that you might celebrate, or your 16th, where you might encourage your parents to, let people around your house and have a drink and go a bit wild or whatever. Now, it's very common in the liberal tradition to celebrate this with a big party at the end, and sweets are thrown at the boy who's gone through the bar mitzvah or the girl. Orthodox Jews tend to have more low-key celebrations to show the religious solemnity or the religious importance of the act. Now, some Jews in more recent years have seen bar mitzvah as being so important that they've organised it in Israel, the Promised Land. They've decided that this should happen in the Promised Land in Israel, the land promised to Jews by God. So I hope that's given you some idea on the importance of Brit Milah and the bar and bat mitzvah. And obviously read your notes and check out my PowerPoints and anything else. And if you have any comments, leave them below. And I'll look forward to speaking to you in the next tutorial. I hope you're staying safe and well in these difficult times. And I look forward to speaking to you soon. Take care.